The Rangers lose to the St. Louis Blues 3-2 in overtime in the return of Vlad Tarasenko to St. Louis. Of course, Nico Mikkola as well. But the good news is that Tarasenko scored a goal and had an assist as well. So definitely a good return for him, and really got a nice ovation, and deservedly so. He was with the Blues for 11 seasons, won a Stanley Cup there. Really will go down as one of the best St. Louis Blue players probably of all time. And so, it was a good night for him, but not a great night for the Rangers. I'm not really surprised. I kind of feel bad for Halak in the sense that it seems like he gets a lot of these back end, the second of the back to back, and so the Rangers don't play particularly well in front of him, at least lately. And so I thought, he played pretty well. And, a couple of bad defense. The first goal is definitely on Panarin, no doubt. And even the third goal as well, kind of a combination of Keandre Miller and Panarin. Not going to be up in arms about it. I think that with only getting the 1 point, I think we can kind of say goodbye, not mathematically, but realistically, you can say goodbye to the Rangers coming back, into that second spot. They are 4 points behind New Jersey with 3 games left. Both teams have 3 games left. It's not going to happen. I think that you could have maybe dreamed on it still. If they'd gotten the win tonight, I think that would have still been maybe a possibility. But with the way the math works, the way it looks, I'd be pretty surprised if it happens. And again, we've known that anyway, so that's not really a big deal. The good news is Jacob Trouba was back in there. I did not expect that. I mean, I knew that he was traveling with the team, which was a good sign in itself, but I just wasn't sure. Patrick Kane was out again. And so the Rangers went with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. I think Kane will be fine, but it just goes back to the original point of just, the Patrick Kane look. Like, the Patrick Kane acquisition, while for sure exciting, just for the team, I could very well see myself being pretty upset about how that turns out. I hope I'm wrong. And on the flip side, Tarasenko, the more I watch him, the more I like him. I really, really do. He seems very motivated. He's a lot more than just a shooter. He really is. I mean, he uses the body. He's a bit, him being in the Western Conference for so long, you kind of get the wrong idea. And obviously, I think he wanted out of there the last few years. So maybe, again, for him, the intensity maybe wasn't quite as sharp as it was, even though he put up, last season, like a great statistical season. And, they even won a playoff round. But I'm liking that Tarasenko Mikkola trade. Now, obviously, Sammy Blais goes to St. Louis, and he did not score, but he looked good. I mean, Sammy Blais just looks like a different player in a St. Louis Blue uniform. I was sure he was going to score. He didn't, but I thought it was going to happen. And then Pavel Buchnevich is now playing center. It's just, that trade could not have gone any worse. That Buchnevich for Blais trade was just worked out perfectly for St. Louis, despite the fact that St. Louis is kind of in a bit of a retool right now, and the Rangers are obviously aspiring to, maybe be a cup contender. But let's talk about this game again. They went 11 forward, 7 defensemen. And so, definitely some forward line juggling as far as the defense. Harper was mainly the odd guy out. Also, Lindgren didn't play a whole lot either. When I look at the time on, the ice time, and Lindgren definitely doesn't look so good right now. That Lindgren and Fox pair in general. Fox, but we kind of saw this last year too with Fox, where down the stretch, he wasn't so great. I remember in the regular season, but then come playoff time, Adam Fox was definitely one of their, definitely better players when I think about last year's playoffs. So I think Fox, it might be intentional. And, he's logged more minutes than anyone on this team all year. So I'm just saying, I think that pair, where normally I'm, really a fan of Lindgren Fox, tonight, understandably so, is not really great. And Harper, played a little more than 10 minutes. So a good amount of time, right? No one, Miller played over 20 minutes, and that includes some overtime time. So they really tried to balance it out as best they could. When looking at the forward ice times, really pretty balanced. A lot of Tarasenko, which it makes a lot of sense going back to St. Louis. But even like the fourth liner, Goodrow 13-16, Mott 14-37. And again, Tyler Mott has looked really good lately. I hope he stays healthy. He's looked good. So I guess the quote-unquote fourth line players got the least amount of time. Kreider only 15-12. But either way, in this one, Trouba trips Sammy Blais at 3:12. So, of course, that happens. Trouba returns, and Blais draws the penalty. But the Rangers, that was the only Ranger penalty kill, and they kill that off. And just of note in net for St. Louis was Jordan Binnington. First period for the Rangers, I thought was not really all that sharp. None of it is a surprise after the emotional Tampa game. This is what it's been lately, where the Rangers, they've played very, for the most part, pretty well at home. A lot of goals in these road games. It's been not a whole lot of goal scoring and typically trailing. That's kind of been the theme for whatever the reason. So the score remains tied. It's scoreless at the end of one. Kind of a low event first period. Pretty boring game in general. It did kind of get a little more interesting as time went on. Mikkola, after the first TV timeout, was honored, and then Tarasenko, longer, of course, in the second TV timeout, honored by the St. Louis Blue faithful. So in the second, no penalties at all, but there was a goal, and it was Tarasenko scoring his 10th goal of the season unassisted. This was a bad play by Artemi Panarin. Panarin in the offensive blue line tries to make a move around like three players, just a reckless sort of play. And Trocheck tried to track down Tarasenko, but wasn't able to do so, and he snaps it past Halak for the goal. Gives the Blues a 1-0 lead, and that's with Panarin. It's been better lately, and again, this game was relatively meaningless, but with Artemi, it's a concern for me. He cannot be doing that in the playoffs. Like that just cannot happen. And again, to give him credit, I feel like I haven't noticed it as much, but it is a concern of mine with him, where that defensive side tonight, it was absolutely lacking. It was just not there. So the Blues have a 1-0 lead going into the third. In the third, at 57 seconds, another Ranger connection as former teammates. Pavel Buchnevich trips Hedl. It looked worse live, but on the replay, Buchnevich probably shouldn't have been called for a penalty. I think that was probably unfair to St. Louis. The Rangers take advantage of that, and it's Tarasenko scoring his 18th goal of the season overall and his 8th as a Ranger. So the stats are starting to come up where really, his first 10 to 15 games with the Rangers, not a whole lot going, but now he seems a lot more comfortable. He just looks like a threat. And it's assists by Zibanejad Adam Fox. So the Rangers tied up at 1. Then at 10-13, though, St. Louis takes the lead again, and it's Tyler Pitlick scoring his 7th goal of the season from Walker and Krug at 10-13. So with this goal, first Adam Fox, I think he kind of messes up at the offensive blue line, and then Lindgren was, I guess, in trouble and kind of put it in a safe place, but no one was there. And Lindgren's trying to, and eventually the puck goes towards the front, and I don't know where Fox was. Also, the kid line probably could have been a little bit better defensively. You saw Lafreniere kind of just standing there. So, again, with the kid line, as much as I like them, defensively, there's definitely things to be worked on for sure. Not a great goal by the team. Nothing Halak could do on this one. If I'm Jaro Halak, the only goal that maybe was that first goal, but even that was a pretty solid shot. So the Blues take a 2-1 lead. Then the Rangers draw a power play. Great move by Mika Zibanejad. Drawing, kind of had a little mini breakaway, and Justin Falk was forced to slash him. And so the Rangers get a power play. And I didn't agree with the fact that Gallant pulled Halak immediately. At least let's see what the faceoff brings, right? So with 2:20 left, he pulls Halak. And he likes doing this. And to give him credit, it actually worked here for sure. The 6-on-4. It's a goal by Vinny Trocheck, who in essence was kind of the sixth man. It's Trocheck's 21st goal of the season from Tarasenko and Panarin. So the Rangers tied up at 2 right there. And, really nice job. They win the faceoff, and Trocheck's in the right spot. Scores. I think Trocheck had a goal similar to that, I believe, at Seattle. In a similar situation. At the very least, it was 6-on-5. It might have been 6-on-4 as well. And I believe it was a Trocheck goal late that forced overtime, and the Rangers did lose that game in overtime when they would do that. I think that was overtime, not the shootout. Yeah, it was overtime. So they go to the 3-on-3. And, Keandre Miller turns it over. Again, it's those turnovers that kind of killed the Rangers in this one. It was not a great play by Miller. But then Panarin, Trocheck's back. It's a 2-on-1 type situation. If Panarin just keeps skating, he could have caught up to Kapanen or Schenn. Let's just say Kapanen. Instead, Panarin's trying to direct Trocheck. It was a total mess. Panarin, if I'm him, just skate. Just skate. Don't, try to direct Trocheck. I think it confused him. And so it ends up being an easy 2-on-1, and Kapanen just buries it. One-timer. The former Penguin scores. It's his 15th goal of the season from Schenn and Falk. And so, luckily, 3-on-3 overtime is not a thing in the playoffs. Do you think the Rangers, with all their talent, would be better in 3-on-3? They're 6-10. Pretty bad. So, a lot of games decided this season in overtime, certainly the 3-on-3, and then even included in the shootout as well, where last year a lot of Ranger games were being decided in regulation. So for this Ranger team, less wins, but in terms of regulation losses, kind of probably about the same as last year, but a shit ton more of overtime losses. And so that right column is now at 12. So the Rangers are 46, 21, and 12, which overall, really, really nice record, 104 points. And so now the Rangers, 3 more games that are basically meaningless. Subject to change, I suppose. And I guess the one unfortunate thing for the home ice once was the fact that on Saturday you had the Devils at Boston, who I think is still playing hard, trying to get that record for their historic season. The Rangers are against a really bad Columbus team, so you could have sort of cut that to 1 point deficit. Now at best it's 2, and the Devils, the way I look at this, when you look at the regulation wins, they have that tiebreaker. I don't think the Rangers care about it that much. As much as I talk about it, I don't even think it's that important. The bigger thing is, right now, Carolina Devils is still up for grabs. Carolina still has that edge. They're up 1 point on New Jersey with a game in hand, but that can change. So, while it still looks like it's the Devils, that's the one Ranger race that I'm more looking to. But again, the Rangers will have one more road game in the regular season. It's at Columbus. It's Saturday. And we'll see if it's Igor or Halak. Logically, it's Igor, but I don't know. They might get a little funky with the season kind of winding down, and with Patrick Kane, we'll see when he returns. There's no need to rush him. It kind of they always talked about that hip thing, and he kind of downplayed it, and he did play well by the deadline. But look, to me, Kane has not looked explosive and has not looked right. So look, if they want to sit him, totally fine. Again, in Vlad Tarasenko's return, he does well, but the Rangers do lose in overtime, 3-2.